Welcome to Molotov Now, a podcast about taking action.
In Molotov Now, we analyze and discuss news articles and stories of resistance from around the globe and connect them to our struggles here at home in Aberdeen, Washington.
In the spirit of building solidarity between the rural and the urban, we hope to inspire direct action in the face of oppression and to light a fire to find each other in the darkness.
This is Sprout.
And this is Sherian, and we are the hosts of Molotov Now on the Channel Zero Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the podcast.
If you like what we do here and want to support it, you can do that by going to linktree/AL1312 and clicking donate.
We are returning to you after a hiatus over the summer that saw us putting our writing hats down for some extended real-world organizing.
We were delighted to be able to be involved in organizing this year's Dual Power Gathering, which occurred outside of Portland this July. That and some situations going on personally made it so we could not record for the last couple of months. As you can probably tell by the sound quality of this episode, we are not in our normal recording studio. We are in the process of moving to a bigger and better studio here soon, but are out of sorts for this episode. Bear with us.
With that in mind, and seeing as though we recognize the necessity of pulling away from this work sometimes to focus on building our media project overall, we have decided to release Molotov Now in season format going forward. So welcome to the first episode of Season 2 of Molotov Now. Thanks for sticking with us.
That said, expect Molotov Now and Sabo Media generally to start putting out our typical anarchist content again here soon, and with some new additions to the roster for listeners to enjoy. Stay tuned.
Never are we gone. We are just working hard on stuff in the background.
We would like our listeners to be aware that the subject matter of this episode mentions the sexual assault of a child. If you're not comfortable with that subject matter, then this might not be the episode for you, but it's important to report on in our context here in Aberdeen, and so we've put it in the episode. There are only a few brief mentions, and we don't get into detail. So with that, here is the episode. We have a lot to cover in this episode, having been gone for so long. We are choosing to forego a guest spot this time in favor of recapping in detail the last few months of life here in Aberdeen, Washington, what this has meant for organizing, the war on the unhoused, and local city politics.
That's right, from genocidal city policies towards the unhoused, to revelations about child molestation from one of the same city councilors responsible for doxxing a local mutual aid organizer.
Stay tuned for that discussion, plus a radical news rundown, music, and more. Up next, an audio version of our newsletter, the Communique, catching you up on all the relevant happenings in Grays Harbor County, Washington, right after this message from our sponsor.
The car is on fire, and there's no driver at the wheel.
Because they're at the 2024 Sacramento Anarchist Book Fair. They've got books, they've got zines, they've got art, they've got workshops, panels, and skill shares.
Admission is free, you capitalist scum!
So come on down on September 7th, 2024 to the Washington Neighborhood Center at 400 16th Street. That's 400 16th Street in downtown Sacramento.
Like that beam!
Don't miss it.
Welcome back to Molotov Now. It is time for the audio version of our newsletter, the Communique, shared with you to keep folks not in our area up to date on the going-ons of our small town, to break down borders and connect with radicals outside of the county. To subscribe to the free monthly-ish newsletter, simply send an email to the_communique, that's COMMUNIQUE, _subscribe@lists.riseup.net. To add something to our newsletter, whether it's an upcoming event or action, a mutual aid request, or a story you think is worth sharing, email us at sabo_media@riseup.net. The Communique, upcoming events. From the most recent issue of Sabotage Noise Productions, we have their radical shows and benefits list.
In Olympia, at the mortuary will be hosting a People's Cafe open mic night with coffee and tea provided by Wobbly Cup, with no one turned away for lack of funds. Every first Sunday from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m., Prisoner Letter Writing Night will be hosted at the mortuary with their next upcoming dates on October 4th and September 1st. At August 11th, the mortuary will be hosting a show featuring Cybergrind Girlies, I've Never Been Here Before, Lonely Girl 15, and Oh Nothing. On August 14th at 8 p.m., they will be hosting the bands Fan Club, Tit, and Odor Eater, with no one turned away for lack of funds. On August 27th, they will be hosting the bands Head Portals, Spacer, and more. In Seattle, at Left Mink Books on 92 Pike Street, on every last Thursday, they will be hosting Volta, a QT BIPOC open mic night on August 29th and September 26th. Also in Seattle, at Pipsqueak at 173 16th Avenue, every first Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m., and on every second Sunday from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m., they will be hosting a Queer Writers Meetup. They will also be hosting on every Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. a Queer and Trans Art Jam. On August 18th from 7:30 to 10 p.m., Author Talk, Why Are People Into That? A Cultural Investigation of Kink with Tina Horn. On August 25th from 10:30 to 3:30, they will be hosting a Queer Sewing Plus Meeting Day. Also in Seattle, at the Vera Project at 305 Harrison Street, on August 17th, 7 p.m., benefit show for Cocoon House featuring Counterproductive, Drivers, Love So Deep, and The Toolsmen. Also be sure to save the date for the Seattle Anarchist Book Fair, September 28th through 29th at the Vera Project. Details on Instagram at Seattle Anarchist Book Fair or sabf.info. In Bremerton, the People's Exchange at 639 Callow Avenue, every Sunday at 6 p.m. will be hosting queer meetups. Also in Bremerton, at the Charleston, at 333 North Callow Avenue, on November 9th, Hunger Strike 3, big-ass benefit for Kitsat Food Not Bombs featuring Baptation N, Mass Grief, Aggro, and more. No one turned away for lack of funds. In Tacoma, at the Gravel Pit, on August 24th, 11 a.m., Pitfest 2024 featuring Kuwaisiana, The Rat Utopia Experiment, Fishy Mushroom, Those Damn Animals, Crowbar Morgan, Soggy Possums, Queen Fisher, Infradead, Porch Cat, Audrey Plath, Michael Ternini, The Phantom Pines, and Boogie to Learn, with no one turned away for lack of funds. Also in Tacoma, at the Solidarity Center at 1220 South 23rd Street, a bi-weekly Feed the People event with the Black Panther Party will be hosted. For more info or booking, contact the Hilltop Solidarity at proton.me. Need help booking a benefit show? Want to list your cool show or benefit event for mutual aid, labor solidarity, prisoner support, or just general anarchy? Contact Sabotage Noise Productions. Email at sabotagenoiseproductions@proton.me, Instagram at Sabotage Noise Productions. Follow now for their monthly zine and updates.
In Bremerton, at the Charleston, an all-ages live music venue at 333 North Callow Avenue, Saturday, August 10th, Acid Teeth, Dissect, and Schmutzhund. $10 at the door, show starts at 8 p.m. Thursday, August 15th, featuring Primal Beast, Rising of the Tides, and more. Show starts at 8 p.m. Friday, August 16th, featuring Chameleons, The Rat Utopia Experiment, The Tide, and The Entourage. Doors open at 8. Tickets are $10. Saturday, August 17th, Conjuring Up Monsters, Fantastic Flying Fulches, Battle Stations, and Verota. Doors open at 8. Tickets are $10. Thursday, August 22nd, Burial Rites, Cut Rate, Druggist, and more. Doors open at 8. Friday, August 23rd, Phantom Pines, Oak Top, Raggedy Adler. Saturday, August 24th, Chameleons, War Puppy, and Crystal Logic. Playing at 8 p.m., $10 at the door. And finally, Thursday, August 29th, Vindication, a drag battle hosted by Vertigo. Also $10, doors open at 8. And now for our mutual aid requests.
A PDX trans sex worker comrade who asked for help getting wheels a few weeks ago ended up borrowing money and got the car, but needs assistance with title transfer fees. She experienced violent assaults this week while doing survival work and needs to recover, asking $135 for title transfer and $32 for the light bill. If you can, please donate to their Cash App at hashtag HouseIllEven. That's hashtag HouseIllEven, at Venmo, HouseIllEven, or their PayPal at walterskallan@gmail.com. That is WalterSkallan@gmail.com.
There's also a GoFundMe set up for people to donate to help Anna May get started after getting out of prison. Anna May is a trans woman getting out of prison in September with next to no resources and will still be in recovery from surgery at that time. Fundraising is a last resort after microgrants and organizational support have not come through. Please donate or share if you can. Any amount helps. Just search GoFundMe for Help Anna May Get Started After Getting Out of Prison. And now it's time for our calls to action.
Howdy, y'all. Here's an easy action for those of y'all willing to send emails to nudge Pierce County's Washington County Council to create emergency zoning for temporary shelters for 60 unhoused community members. Here's the email for the whole county council. pccouncil@piercecountywa.gov. If needed, here's a template for your email content. Always nice to change it up a wee bit so they don't think all emails in support of the proposal are bots. Dear Pierce County Council members, according to the latest point in time count, Pierce County has experienced a 23% increase in homelessness. Now more than ever, we need solutions to transition individuals from the streets to housing. I urge you to support proposal number 2024-548. Time is of the essence. The county has allocated funding for the stability site, but zoning challenges are causing delays in the project. Without the approval of this proposal, the allocated funding could go to waste, and up to 60 individuals in need of housing would be left without shelter. Please support this proposal so that we can promptly utilize these valuable funds to provide housing for those in desperate need. Sincerely, you.
And now for local news. July was hot. Even here on the coast, we had multiple days over 85 degrees. They say heat makes people act crazy, and maybe that's what happened here. Folks got their brains cooked and forgot their humanity. Or maybe that rising tide of fascism has reached a rolling boil, and the fascist liberal bargain has been laid bare as people witnessed the United States imperialist machine help to grind Gaza into dust. Whatever it was, this month ended up being quite the nightmare here in Aberdeen, from pedophile city councilors to the war on the unhoused. We're going to try and round up the last month here in Aberdeen.
From the Harbor Rat Report, City Council members Riley Carter and Casey Ann Morrison doxed local organizer.
On Saturday night around 10 p.m., a local organizer was made aware that they had just been doxed by a sitting city council member, Riley Carter. The supposed reason for this was that Riley and his wife, Maya Hernandez, mistakenly believed that a longtime Facebook troll, known for harassing locals over petty things, was in fact this organizer. Apparently, this troll had been making harassing and threatening comments to Maya on a review that she left on our local hospital, Harbor Regional Health, over the recent and tragic death of her baby during its delivery. So, Maya assumed that it was said organizer making these comments and threats to her, and she guessed that it was them based on zero evidence. That was enough for Riley to take to his own private hate group on Facebook, called Hey Tweakers of Aberdeen, Washington, I Want My Shit Back, to dox this organizer and accuse them of threatening his wife. They released this organizer's photo, their name, and Casey Ann Morrison shared a photo of the front of their house. They mentioned the location of their house and goaded their followers towards hateful, disparaging, and threatening comments. This was, in fact, the second time this particular organizer has been doxed by Casey Ann Morrison, and this is at least the fourth total doxing attempt for Casey overall. She has posed and continues to pose a clear and present danger to our community. She is a danger to herself and others. This behavior is alarming, and especially so since she is in a position of power. This hostile environment caused the council to recently strip Casey of her title of president of the city council during a wild city council meeting that she missed for some unknown reason. This is far too little and far too late, though. She needs to be removed from city council immediately and ran out of this town. She deserves no quarter for her consistent attacks on the unhoused and her near genocidal disregard for their lives. So, after releasing this information on the organizer, The troll at the heart of this dilemma came to the organizers' Facebook pages and began commenting about how people now think that they're the same person and are stalking this organizer's house. The Facebook troll commented to the organizer that they should, quote, enjoy the fight I've set up for you. These comments were public, and this troll even tagged Maya and Riley to make sure that they knew that they were not the same person, and they were blaming and harassing the wrong individual just because of their political differences. We were as unsurprised as anyone when the very next day, Riley Carter was arrested for first-degree rape of a child. He confessed to this atrocity, and apparently there is video evidence as well. A witness to the event called the police, and the sheriff conducted the arrest. He has now pled not guilty to these charges and is awaiting his next court date at the end of September. Organizers in this town are routinely harassed, stalked, followed, and threatened by our local fascist contingency, including members of the city council. These people have been hunting down personal information and attempting to intimidate organizers out of their work for years now. We at Sabo Media have published multiple instances of this occurring. Yet the resolve of these organizers is as resilient as ever. They will not be swayed from their goal of providing mutual aid within a struggling community in daily crisis. This recent push to evict and criminalize the unhoused is only going to bolster their ranks and quicken their organizing efforts. Good luck to Casey Ann as she spirals further down the rabbit hole of her special brand of Christian nationalism. Hopefully she is hanging her head in shame after getting stripped of her title, missing the last city council meeting, and deleting all of her Facebook accounts. We are not even close to pushing for this woman to be stripped of every iota of power she has. Our next article is a bit out of date. We wrote it before the eviction occurred, and so it's written in that context. Please understand that we have plenty of commentary later in this episode about the actual eviction and its effect on the unhoused in town. But for now, here is Aberdeen unhoused camp to be evicted August 7th from the Communique.
The Aberdeen City Council has unanimously agreed to give the homeless populations who reside on River and State Streets 30 days to vacate. After the recent so-called Supreme Court decision in the Grants Pass case, it is no longer unconstitutional for cities to cite or arrest people for camping in public spaces. Immediately following the decision, local anti-homeless advocate and council member Casey Ann Morrison called for a meeting about how to start enforcing the ordinance Aberdeen has on the books for years, but have been unable to enforce until now. At the meeting, the public overwhelmingly commented in favor of not enforcing these ordinances. Many unhoused folks commented that while they are working with local housing providers, they are still weeks or months away from being housed. Housing providers commented that they are doing all they can with what there is, but the extreme housing shortage is tying their hands. Of note was the multiple comments in favor of seizing property from Terry Emmer and converting those properties into transitional housing and emergency shelter. During the meeting, the council voted 8-0 to extend the deadline for eviction of the camp for 30 days. This means that on August 7th, the city of Aberdeen will be evicting the unhoused from the camp underneath the Chehalis River Bridge permanently. Residents will be forced into the streets of Aberdeen and will be made to pack up their belongings every day at 6 a.m. and not set up camp until 11 p.m. each night, with limits on how much space they can take up and items they can own. They are also considering passing a citywide sit and lie ordinance that would make it so that people couldn't sit or lie down during the times in which they are forced to be awake and mobile. If they don't find shelter, we now have a set of laws, Clemens said. Our officers will be educating them on what they can and cannot do, according to our code. The first encounter will be education. Our officers will make the homeless aware of the law and the resources available to them. The second encounter, if the people aren't responsive, is a verbal warning. The third encounter leads to a fine. The fourth encounter would lead to a custodial arrest. This inhumane ordinance will be forcing people, many with mobility issues, to live on 7 hours or less of sleep and to pack up and move along so that they are out of eyesight as much as possible for the pearl-clutching quacks like our recently elected city council member, Deb Hodgkin, for the rare occasions that she does leave her 8,000 square foot mansion. There is no doubt that Aberdeen's police department's fresh batch of hot-blooded idiots wouldn't have a shred of empathy as they round up the camp's residents. Not noted in the Daily World's report on the council meeting was that after a long public comment section full of pleas from locals not to pass this ordinance, City Council President Casey Ann Morrison asked whether 4 hours parking limits could also be enforced under the Grants Pass decision. The ongoing theme of our fascist city council was concern. Concern over sanitation, concern for the safety of the campers living less than 20 feet from the train tracks, concern over the garbage, rats, and needles, all problems manufactured by the city of Aberdeen and repackaged as a new problem brought on by the unhoused. The familiar cycle of problems being created and solutions being offered have one end goal: the perpetuation of the city government of Aberdeen and those in its positions of power. Their goal of this cycle is to wear the homeless down until they die or leave Aberdeen.
Aberdeen City Council member arrested for rape of a child. Riley Tyrell Carter, 39, was arrested for first-degree rape of a child late Tuesday night by the Aberdeen Police Department after a witness made contact with the police and made his initial appearance in Grays Harbor Superior Court the next afternoon. He was previously arrested in January for domestic violence charges. The Grays Harbor Sheriff's Office will be handling the case. In Washington, legal code defines first-degree rape of a child as an offense where the suspect has sexual intercourse with a child younger than 12, where the suspect is at least 24 months older than the victim. It is a Class A felony, according to the state government website. Judge Vinnie E. Samuel presided over the initial appearance. Police were contacted on Tuesday afternoon for a report of sex offense against a minor, according to the court documents. The victim was interviewed in the presence of their parent, stating that Carter had touched them sexually, quote, a lot of times. According to the court documents, with incidents occurring over the last 2 years, as often as several times per week. Carter reportedly would unplug the cameras in and around the victim's room before the assaults, including that very morning, July 30th. After being questioned about the frequency of events involving sexual contact, Carter stated that the victim's narrative of events, with a higher number of incidents, was true. Carter almost ended his mess of a life, but couldn't muster the will to take his own life. Despite being rampantly and viciously in defense of children for his whole career on the council, making comments daily about how dangerous Aberdeen is because of the unhoused, Carter declared his statement to be true, according to court documents, before being booked for first-degree rape of a child. Bail is currently set at $150,000. No one in the city seems to have any comment due to the sensitive nature of the situation. The only person to comment so far is his partner on the city council, Casey Ann Morrison. She took to Facebook to publicly distance herself from him and call for his removal from the council. This is her way of getting ahead of people calling for her removal based on the hostility she has demonstrated in her tenure on the council and the poor judgment she has shown in associating so closely with Riley Carter. They had an executive session last council meeting to discuss the situation, one in which Casey was mysteriously not present. As of the writing of this article, the council had yet to take any action, such as removing him from the council or rebuking him officially in any way. He has since resigned from his jail cell.
Fire breaks out at homeless camp. A fire broke out at the homeless camp in Aberdeen near State Street under the Shayless River Bridge on Monday the 22nd in the afternoon, killing 2 dogs, destroying property, and briefly shutting down the bridge. Fuel cans and live ammunition in the fire complicated the response, said Aberdeen Fire Chief Dave Golding. A call came in regarding a tent on fire. When they arrived, fire crews put out the fire quickly. 6 tents were destroyed in the blaze, but thankfully no people were injured. Reports from camp are that people were throwing fireworks off the bridge into camp, and that is what started the fire. This is not uncommon. With everything from trash to pipe bombs being hurled off the bridge at them, the Aberdeen Police Department is also investigating the possibility of criminal activity around the fire, said Commander Steve Timmons of the APD.
Aberdeen City Councilors rebuke Mayor Doug Orr. In the crowded temporary council chambers on the 3rd floor of Grays Harbor College's Tulare Student Center, private residents and at least a couple city council members voiced their anger towards Aberdeen Mayor Doug Orr. They addressed multiple issues that they have with Orr and with the city. One of the main issues was Doug's recent social media post calling into question the events surrounding Trump's assassination attempt. Once the post was disseminated through social media, it went viral. A conservative talk show in Seattle spoke to Orr about it. Como News spoke to Orr about it, and now it's a story that has gone international. Orr removed the post the same night that he sent it out, and then apologized about a day and a half later. But a lot of people aren't satisfied by Orr's apology, or that he's the mayor, and now those people want him gone. Another issue that got contentious at the meeting was the fire at camp recently, with pedophile and council member Riley Carter holding up a baggie of ammunition that was found at the fire. Talking about bullets yesterday, if anyone wants to see them, I've got them right here, Carter said. Just a little small collection. We've got 40s, 45s, 9mm, and 22 calibers just sitting there blowing up in the fire. Carter referred to, quote, numerous, dangerous, scary things going on constantly, and then read an attempted resolution of no confidence in the mayor and the Homelessness Response Committee, or heads that committee. Councilor Liz Ellis cut Carter off from finishing his reading in order to declare a point of order. She stated that he was not allowed to read a resolution right then, according to the rules. Casey Ann recommended he read it as his opinion instead. He began to do so, and people started jeering at him, clearly wanting him to move on. And then, after some booing, someone yelled, "Everyone shut the fuck up," which momentarily quieted the room. After the brief interruption, Carter read his attempted resolution again. but this time as his opinion. Morrison backed him up and said how Carter was, quote, reading it as his council report. Morrison followed this up with her own report, which called for the censure of Doug Orr. Quote, this was originally intended to be a resolution of censure for Mayor Orr, Morrison said. Whereas it is customary and appropriate for officials in elected office to comport themselves in such situations with decorum and dignity by offering condolences to the victims, and whereas all leaders and community members rightfully condemn and disavow any and all political violence, and whereas on July 13, 2024, Mayor Douglas Orr failed to uphold the standards of decorum expected of those in a position of power during such tragedies, and failed to condemn the political violence that took place that day. But in the initial post, Orr did say, any way you look at it, it was a horrific act, in reference to what happened at the Trump rally. Morrison said, Orr also further disparaged members of the city council as dysfunctional and demeaned outraged citizens with a different perspective, and how the situation has brought great harm and embarrassment to our community and caused discord and rightful indignation among community members. Morrison said she wants to censure Orr for conduct unbecoming of the high office he holds. Concerned trolls expressed their continued outrage at the trash and fire hazards around camp, asking why it still exists. The city's Homelessness Response Committee, which until recently was headed by Casey Ann, has been instrumental in sweeping the camp regularly and publishing the associated costs for people to complain about how much they are spending on it. The unhoused residents who showed up are worried about what they'll do once the encampment closes. And now it's time for our Radical News Roundup from other autonomous media organizations that we follow.
Unicorn Riot is a decentralized, educational, 501c3 nonprofit media organization of journalists. Unicorn Riot engages and amplifies the stories of social and environmental struggles from the ground up. They seek to enrich the public by transforming the narrative with accessible and non-commercial independent content. You can find the following articles on their website at unicornriot.ninja.
July 1st. Recanted jailhouse testimonies lead to renewed calls to release Bobo and Ferguson. July 2nd. Critically ill children leave Gaza for treatment in Egypt. July 10th. Interview. Breaking down the Mahdi Ali case. July 12th. Protests erupt in Utica after brutal police killing of 13-year-old refugee. July 14th. Mobile Field Force policing model funded for Milwaukee Republican National Convention. July 15th. Milwaukee RNC opens with a protest march. July 17th. Historic South African election dethrones ruling party ANC. July 17th. A deeper look into Project 2025. Far-right political funding and propaganda. July 18th. RNC protesters speak on immigration, LGBT rights, climate, Palestine, and more. July 22nd. Artist E.B. Lewis illustrates social injustice and children's books. July 23rd. Utica streets shut down by 1,000 during Justice for Naya Mwe March. July 25th. Predictive policing and the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Security versus freedom. July 30th. Unveiling the Politics of Hindutva, a review of Parivar, a celebration of community as family. And August 5th, Minneapolis polluter Smith Foundry will cease East Phillips operation on August 15th.
It's going down, and you're invited for what they selling. We ain't buying, there is no running, there is no hiding, there's only fighting or dying.
It's Going Down is a digital community center for anarchist, anti-fascist, autonomous, anti-capitalist, and anti-colonial movements across so-called North America. Their mission is to provide a resilient platform to publicize and promote revolutionary theory and action. You can find the following articles on their website at itsgoingdown.org.
July 2nd, In Contempt number 42. Hunger strikes and phone zaps. June 11th roundup, Mexican anarchists in trouble. June 2nd. Growing international links between neo-Nazi active clubs and European fascists points to escalating threat. July 3rd. Anarchists in South Carolina facing federal subpoena releases statement. July 4th. Shane Burley and Ben Lorber on safety through solidarity and community mobilization in the current terrain. July 5th. Follow the Fires, Insurgency Against Identity. July 7th. Kiteline, Resisting the Rise of State Violence. July 8th. Final Straw, Cyprus Hartford Resists Federal Grand Jury and MAC Film Festival. July 8th. An update on Casey Goonan's recent hunger strike. July 9th. This is America, number 197. Resistance Roundup, Joss Fernandez on anti-fascist history, Peter Gelderloos on Supreme Court and beyond. July 10th. Announcing the second annual Sacramento Anarchist Book Fair. July 11th. Pete's Coffee employees march on the boss as IWW union campaign expands to the fourth store. July 11th. An update from grand jury resistor Cypress Hartford. July 16th. Toronto police approaching people to be confidential informants. July 16th. Announcing the 7th annual Running Down the Walls in Philadelphia. July 16th. Charitable bail funds fight back against Georgia's new bail law. July 16th. After lies and inaction from slumlord Byung-Yu, tenants picket KP Market. July 16th. Anti-fascists expose rental home of neo-Nazis who attacked a bartender in Nashville as locals call for counter-protest. July 18th. Anarchists in the labor movement, an interview with an academic worker. July 19th. Power Punch. Leveling up anti-fascist theory and action using a decade of reflection on fighting the alt-right. July 19th. Final Straw. July 25th, International Day of Solidarity with Anti-Fascist Prisoners. July 21st, a post-mortem of the failures of the University of Texas so-called People's Circle for Palestine. July 22nd, Steve Ongirth on the bombing of Judy Barry and Redwood Summer. July 29th, Running Down the Walls 2024, the 25th anniversary. July 29th, This is America number 198, Boeing 5, Health Autonomy Convergence, Deep Dive on Project 2025. July 30th, Building support for an anarchist political prisoner, Jorge York Escoval, and Ocupa Che. July 31st, There is no such thing as a pro-labor conservative. August 1st, Cypress Hartford released from federal grand jury subpoena. August 1st, How many autonomies fit in a community? August 1st, In Contempt number 43, Deadly heat wave hits prisons. Multiple hunger strikes kick off. July 25th roundup. August 2nd, Despros set la lutte. Reflections on the night demo of July 19th. August 4th, Reflections on the UChicago Popular University for Gaza Encampment. August 6th, Collective Care and Sustaining Social Change. Interview with Helia Rasti and Ashanti Alston. August 6th, Anarchists in the Labor Movement number 2. August 6th, UK communities mobilize to defend themselves as police fail to stop far-right attacks spurred by viral misinformation.
Crime Thought is everything that evades control. Crime Think is a rebel alliance. Crime Think is a banner for anonymous, collective action. Crime Think is an international network of aspiring revolutionaries. Crime Think is a desperate venture. Check out these articles at crimethink.com.
May 29th, Luis Michel in New Caledonia. May 30th, a virtual tour of Priamukino, the Bukunin family estate and museum. June 3rd, Against Apartheid and Tyranny, for the liberation of Palestine and all the peoples of the Middle East. A statement from Iranian exiles. June 17th, 6 months in a neoliberal dystopia. Social cannibalism versus mutual aid and resistance in Argentina. June 18th, anarchist techno attacks. Remembering Reclaim the Streets. June 25th, the disaster is already here. Anarchists in southern Brazil on the floods of May 2024. And finally, on June 11th, why stop at removing Biden? The center cannot hold. And now it's time for a musical break. So here is Swap Meet by Nirvana. Hit it.
Conversation to put emperor
Welcome back to Molotov Now. We're going to expand on the article mentioned before in the Communique, entitled City Council Members Riley Carter and Casey Ann Morrison Dox Local Organizer. We have obtained an email from the affected organizer that was sent to City Hall. It also includes links to all the screenshots in question, released with the permission of the organizer being targeted. We would like to read that email now.
So here we are at last. The vitriol and violent rhetoric coming from members of the Aberdeen City Council has reached a point that people are being put into real danger. I am writing to bring your attention to something that was brought to my attention this weekend. 2 City Council members have spent the last few days accusing me of things I never did without any evidence, harassing me and cajoling their followers to do the same, doxing me, stalking me, and causing me to fear for my safety and the safety of my family. This is nothing new to me. It is a pattern of behavior going back several years now. However, they have recently discovered my name and thus my address and workplace, and have been publishing that information to their followers with the hopes of some sort of vigilante justice being served for a perceived offense that never was. I hardly need to tell you that I am referring, of course, to Casey Ann Morrison and Riley Carter. They have repeatedly verbally harassed me for the volunteer work I do in the community for the unhoused. They believe that I am some sort of violent political extremist who is terrorizing them. My volunteer work is well known on the streets of this city and consists of feeding and clothing and taking care of those in need. I love and care for the population they have deemed disposable, so their politics have led them to the point of probable defamation. Their conspiracy theories have no bounds any longer. Casey's obsession with me has escalated to the point where she drives past my house yelling my name. Not to mention this is literally the second time she has doxed me after her last pissed off rant post that was published in the Daily World for its conspiracy theory about Sidney Newbill. Riley Carter recently, quote, scoped my house out for code violations. This is definitely not his job, and I fear the only reason he was out front of my house was the situation I am writing to you about tonight. So, on Saturday night, around 10:08 p.m., I received a text from a friend that was a screenshot of a post made in a Facebook group started by Riley Carter about 2 years ago called, Hey Tweakers of Aberdeen, I want my shit back. This is a group that is well known to us to host horrendous, dehumanizing, and often violent posts and comments from people who generally blame the unhoused and the poor for every woe that Aberdeen has. Every crime, every assault, every business closure. It is all because of the unhoused to the people who engage in this group. So there's my face looking back at me from a post in this hate group, alongside my name and a post explaining that apparently I had just threatened Riley Carter's wife, Maya Hernandez, on Facebook. This was news to me, and I was horrified that a council member had just doxed me in his own private hate group. I had no recourse, no way to report it or comment back that it wasn't I who had done this. Along with this came a slew of hateful comments about me and talk about where I lived and what people would like to see happen to me. Casey Ann Morrison helpfully added to the conversation by informing the group where I work. After much digging, I was able to piece together what happened. The basic story is as follows. 1. Maya Hernandez, Riley Carter's wife, made a post reviewing Harbor Regional Health on Facebook expressing her rage and sorrow at the tragic loss of her recently passed child. 2. A longtime troll harassed this review with the most detestable responses about her loss and clearly made Maya incredibly angry. 3. A very long comment thread of 175 plus comments began to ensue in which they fight back and forth about a great many things, and at some point, Maya asks this Facebook troll who he is. They offer 3 choices: me, my ex-wife, and my friend. Out of nowhere, completely unprompted, we are all thrust into this situation. The troll sees an opportunity and takes it. 4. A mere 2 comments later, Maya says that she will, quote, guess that it is me. She names me as the perpetrator of this disgusting barrage of mean comments, including apparently what she took as multiple threats towards her. This part is somewhat hard to piece together fully, as the troll's comments have all been deleted, likely by Harbor Regional Health. 5. By this time, Casey Ann Morrison and Riley Carter had joined the fight. Casey Ann Morrison then posted a picture of the front of my house taken from Google Street View in order to further identify the troll as me and identifying me as living at that house. She has since deleted this and other comments. 6. Riley Carter went to his private Facebook group and posted that it was in fact me who had just threatened to punch his wife in the face. He told his followers to look out for me and gave them my full name. Commenters then proceeded to point out where I lived, and Casey offered the information of where I work to the crowd. 7. The troll, at this time, is coming over to my Facebook and saying things like, hey, some people think I'm you, and I would watch out, and telling me that they had been stalking my house and even tagging Maya so she could see that we weren't the same person.
8. I engage with the troll, who has a history of harassing me on Facebook, and tell him to stop harassing people and that whatever he has gone through in his life is no excuse for his behavior. He says, quote, enjoy the fight I've set up for you. 9. My ex-wife takes all this information that we have learned that this is a known troll doing this harassment campaign, not me, to Maya over Facebook Messenger and asks her to stop posting things that endanger the lives of her family. She refuses to listen to the evidence and is more determined than ever that it must be me. This is the extent of the immediate situation as best as I can garner. As you can see, 2 sitting city council members have released personal and identifying information about me based on a literal guess. They have zero evidence that it was me and still do not. Making such an accusation against a private citizen, calling them out for having threatened your wife, and then publishing my information amounts to stochastic terrorism. The chance that Casey Morrison or Riley Carter are going to come to my house and attack me are slim to none. I know this. My fear is the loose cannon of a follower who decides that they've had enough of whatever slights they perceive, and based on the information those 2 published, is then able to locate and harm me or my family. It makes violent harm statistically more likely to occur against us. This is also bound to cause irreparable damage to my reputation as a professional in this town, and my mental and physical well-being are also put under threat. Threat from the anxiety and fear the situation has created in my household. Threat from the potential for some random unhinged person who doesn't read the retraction but remembers that I like to punch women in the face, deciding to hurt me. So inform your in-house council of this matter, won't you? I am sure they have their hands full with those 2 already, but this is quite urgent. I hope that this matter is taken as seriously by the city of Aberdeen as I am taking it. I do not have what one might call lawyer money, but I do hope to see some consequences from these actions, as they form what I have already mentioned is a pattern of behavior that should be addressed before more are hurt. Many of my friends have already died in the streets due to the inhumane practices from the Aberdeen City Council. I have linked to the associated screenshots of everything I have described here in a Google folder. I removed my personally identifying information from the posts because I do not know what you will do with them, and I don't want them spread any further than they already have been. I think that it can easily be shown that one, if not both of these council members did, 1. Make a false statement of fact about me, 2. Cause harm to befall me through their statements, and 3. Act with reckless disregard for the truth by making the statements. This is, as I understand, against one of those many laws you all are so fond of. I am curious what your next steps are. Awaiting your reply. To view the attached images in this email, go to bit.ly/councildoxx. That's COUNCILDOXX. This link is followed by a postscript. Considering the event of today, Riley Carter's arrest on first-degree rape of a child, I think my point is driven ever home. This man is dangerous. These people are dangerous. Please take swift and decisive action when the people who are tasked with being our leaders and making our decisions for us are obviously and heinously unstable. These are not behaviors becoming of any adult, much less someone holding themselves out to be a leader, bestowed with such power as you wield over the vulnerable in this city.
And now it's time for another musical break. So here is Steve Earle playing Burning It Down. Hit it.
I was aboard of no limitations, said my goodbyes in the Greyhound station. Here I am, I have a mountain where I grew up in a parking lot, sitting in my pickup truck, thinking about burning it down, boys.
Welcome back to Molotov Now. It's time for us to analyze the article we've just examined and talk a bit about what the hell is going on in Aberdeen right now. So, it must be said that in addition to the content discussed in the article, we also need to talk about the eviction of the unhoused camp that just took place recently. The city of Aberdeen took full advantage of the layup from the Supreme Court decision in Grants Pass, sweeping, for the last time, the River Street encampment on August 7th, just days before recording this. We have barely had time to process, and the after effects have yet to even show up. People have scattered far and wide, and those looking to provide them aid are finding it very difficult compared to last week.
We cannot hammer home enough how genocidal the city's new ordinances are. The sit and lie ordinance, in effect from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. throughout downtown, bans sitting or lying down on the sidewalks of Aberdeen. The city even removed the last few public benches yesterday to make sure no one had anything left.
The camping ordinance bans camping and the use of camping paraphernalia such as tents, sleeping bags, blankets, tarps, and cooking equipment. This is citywide and 24/7, so no one has any options left to them. There is nothing left but the trauma of being attacked by your own city so thoroughly.
Another major issue right now is the enforcement. We had to learn through the newspaper, the Daily World, that the police plan to let individual officers use their own personal discretion in deciding how, when, and where to enforce these ordinances. So the young, hot, under-the-collar fascists will be going wild with arrests. While we may see some relative compassion and leniency for the few remaining older officers who have established long-term relationships with the unhoused in town, some people will get arrested for something one day when it was okay the previous. People will need to up the respect that they show to the cops for fear of arbitrary arrests.
The hate mongers in town are beyond ecstatic about this. They think they have solved the issue. They believe that all people needed was this push and they'll get housed now. Poof, just like that. So, we are calling it now. We may see some temporary reduction in the number of people on the streets, while folks in crisis reach out to family or friends for a couch or backyard to stay in, but that isn't permanent housing. And permanent housing doesn't exist in sufficient amounts for everyone in need right now. So, people will eventually be back out on the streets with even fewer options.
So, it remains to be seen how truly devastating this eviction will prove to be. Time will tell. But with winter approaching soon, it is time to think about the interaction between not being able to have any sort of protection from the elements and surviving a winter in Aberdeen.
Let's move on now to talking about these crazy kids on the Aberdeen City Council. So it turns out that the vehemently patriotic Trumper, Protect Our Children grifter, Riley Carter, is a self-confessed pedophile. We won't get into the details of the crime itself, as it obviously involves a minor, but we cannot do justice without speaking about the man who committed those crimes and the environment he came up in politically.
For context, Riley and his wife and their family moved here in 2022 from outside Grace Harbor. They immediately found it gross, dirty, crime-ridden, and ran by, quote, liberal democrats or whatever. They quickly started a group on Facebook and called it, Hey Tweakers of Aberdeen, Washington, I want my shit back. This group became the nexus point for all the hate-filled fascists in town who have been chomping at the bit to just be allowed to run a purge on the unhoused. They poured in with violent and dehumanizing rhetoric about the poor and vulnerable people living on our streets, those of whom that are most at risk for theft and violence. Soon enough, consorting with the local fascists wasn't big and bold enough for Riley, and he decided to run for a seat on city council. His campaign, if you want to call it that, was mostly him ranting about the non-issues on his TikTok to his tens of followers. It involved all the worst sort of dog whistles and calls for basically executing the homeless one can imagine coming from the mouth of someone as vile as him. He was then elected to his seat in 2023. He spent his time in office doing lots of immature whining about the problems he personally had with the unhoused, as well as blustery speeches meant for primetime viewing that were always filled with lies, veiled threats, false accusations, misinformation, and occasionally outright slander. Now that he's resigned from jail due to his being a disgusting pedophile, his vacant seat will be essentially sold to the highest bidder by the remaining members of the council, who now get to choose from the list of whoever chooses to apply for the position over the next few weeks. Democracy in action.
As for Casey Ann Morrison, now stripped of her duties as council president, she has seemingly vanished from public view for the time being, because she truly is not an idiot. She will lay low for a while. She knows she overexposed herself on this one, both in the doxing of local organizers and the full-throated support and grooming of Riley Carter that she engaged in over the last year. But rest assured, we are not done hearing from her. She will be back complaining about how ineffective her plan to evict the unhoused from camp has been at tackling the issue of homelessness in Aberdeen. She has perfected these subtle art of manufacturing problems so that you can preserve the institution of power and the status quo forever. She has gotten exactly what she wanted for so many years, and she will still complain and push for even harsher policies. Mark our words. If we do not remove her from power, she will turn this whole city into an open-air prison.
The new mayor of Aberdeen, Douglas Orr, also supported the passing of these new ordinances and the eviction of the camp. He's been more quiet in his desire to harm them since taking office, but it still stays with him. We are always reminding people of this man's hatred of the poor and unhoused. Along with his pre-mayoral campaign, homeless bashing, he has also threatened to shoot the admins of a local Facebook page, Aberdeen Local 1312, as well as yelling obscenities on a public street in front of families at local organizers, sharing content from Saba Media about who not to vote for at Doug's own annual Wranglo event. A list that included not only Doug Orr, but his opponent, Debbie Paraschini. He may have also been blue-pilled into dreaming up conspiracy theories about staged Donald Trump assassinations. This stupidity actually went viral somehow, and again, Aberdeen was thrust into the national spotlight for the absolute worst reasons.
The poor in Aberdeen, well, the world really, can't catch a break. From Gaza to Aberdeen, genocidal government campaigns of terror endanger those in our world who most deserve protection. Whether it's Yemen, Sudan, Palestine, or Grace Harbor, the oppressed everywhere share a voice in calling for the cessation of crimes against humanity, the strengthening of networks of resiliency, and the resources necessary to heal.
This town has been through some of the most topical and profound situations in recent years. Things that highlight and speak to systematic issues found in every corner of our country. We have stories that can inspire action in people and provoke deep consideration of the state of our world economic system. We have people who can touch the lives of others on a level not often seen in today's algorithmically charged media landscape. Yet we get caricatured as a podunk little town full of addicts and hillbillies looking for either handouts or guns, too busy fighting amongst each other to focus on solving our staggering list of never-ending problems.
But Aberdeen's problems are capitalism's problems. They are the commodification of housing as a resource one must purchase. It is the brutality of the police that enforce laws disproportionately and with obvious discrimination towards the poor and vulnerable. It is the countless local and state policies that keep people from accessing healthcare, meaningful jobs, education, or resources capable of lifting people out of poverty. It is the system that keeps us oppressed and trampled under its boot. Everything that keeps us disconnected from each other, alienated and alone in our bubbles of hopelessness and apathy.
The solution is action, direct action, taken by people to effect change in their neighborhoods, where they live. The solution is community organizing, the one big union, collectivism, and empathy. We need each other more than anything. It is community we so desperately lack. Community that we fight for every day. It isn't a fight we can lose or give up. It is a fight built into the very fabric of our material reality. The necessity for continued survival, the urge to resist oppression.
The cracking of our tired joints is the music that we play to announce our second wind, our second season. Thank you for joining us for this first episode back. Thanks for supporting this podcast and making our lives richer for it. Here at Molotov Now, we believe that it is real-life connections between people that is worth building. If you feel the same, join us. We want your story, and your story is worth telling. Come tell it.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Molotov Now. We hope you found it informative and inspiring. Our goal with the podcast is to reach out beyond our boundaries and connect the happenings in our small town with the struggles going on in major urban centers. We want to talk to you if you're a big city organizer. We think we have a lot you can learn from, and we know you have much to teach us. If you would like to come on the show, please email us at sabo_media@riseup.net with the header Molotov Now, and we will be in touch about setting up an interview and crafting an episode to feature you. Don't forget, if you like what we do here and want to support it, you can do that by going to linktree/AO1312 and clicking donate, or scrolling to the bottom for Patreon. You have to go check out the amazing shirts up at feralthreads.square.site. All sales from these shirts are also donated to our comrades with the Black Flower Collective. Thank you.
We want to give a shout out to our friends at the South Florida Anti-Repression Committee, who have launched a solidarity campaign for two individuals facing 12 years for an alleged graffiti attack on a fake Christian anti-choice clinic that does not provide any reproductive care. This federal overreach and use of the FACE Act, an act meant to protect people visiting reproductive clinics from harassment, is unprecedented. To support this solidarity campaign, please visit bit.ly/freeourfighters.
We would like to thank the Black Flower Collective for their continued support and wish them luck in their fundraising efforts. To support them or learn more about their project, their website is blackflowercollective.noblogs.org.
Collectiva, the anarchist Mastodon server, is growing faster than ever, thanks to Elon Musk's stupidity, as many activists are closing their accounts for bluer skies, as can be seen in the fluctuation of followers over on IGD's socials. Join at collectiva.social and follow us and other online activists on the decentralized federated internet.
Chehalis River Mutual Aid Network is hosting a fundraiser for their weekly meals with Food Not Bombs. To donate, visit linktree/CR Mutual Aid Net.
The Communique is looking for artist and upcoming event submissions. Please write to sabo_media@riseup.net to submit your entry.
We would also like to say thank you to Pixel Passionate for producing our soundtrack. Please check out their website at www.radicalpraxisclothing.com and check out their portfolio in our show notes.
And of course, thank you to the Channel Zero Anarchist Podcast Network. We are proud to be members of a network that creates and shares leading critical analysis, news, and actions from an anarchist perspective.
Remember to check out Sabo Media's website for new episodes, articles, comics, and columns. We have new content all the time. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe on your favorite corporate data mining platform of choice, and go ahead and make the switch to federated social media on the Collectiva Mastodon server today. At Aberdeen Local 1312 for updates on Sabo Media projects such as the Harbor Rat Report, the Communique, the Sabo Tours, our podcast Molotov Now, and many other upcoming projects. That's all for tonight. Please remember to spay and neuter your cats, and don't forget to cast your votes of those who deserve them.
Solidarity, comrades.
This is Molotov Now, signing off.